My name is Mick Bolognese. I'm the Senior Curator of the National Motor Museum. Also, I was the Project Curator of the Bush Mechanics exhibition.
My name is Paul Rees. I'm the Head of Museums, Marketing and Major Events for the History Trust of South Australia. And we are at the National Motor Museum in the middle of the Bush Mechanics display.
Bush Mechanics is originally a TV show. It aired in 2001 on the ABC, so we're now over 20 years on, still being talked about. At the time, it was the most successful regional television program ever in Australia. I believe it actually still is. It originated from a town called Yuendumu, which is in the Tanami Desert, about 290 kilometres northwest of Alice Springs. It was just one of those iconic television shows that could never be replicated. Bush Mechanics is actually a concept that's not just local to Australia, and it's about people who, in the outback, have to do their own sort of home fixes to keep their cars running. In the central desert of Australia, they use things such as red sand, spinifex, mulga wood, things that you'd find in the bush. But they took that concept of the bush mechanic, and in the TV show they explored all these fascinating parts of regular life in the central desert. They had dreaming stories come into it. It really was pretty amazing storytelling. This exhibition, Bush Mechanics, is at Womadelaide. It's a very interesting place to see a museum exhibition actually, but Bush Mechanics, taking it to a music festival just opens us up to a whole new audience. There's a lot of synergy this year, there's a lot of great First Nations music at Womadelaide this year. When they approached us to put the exhibition on here, we absolutely couldn't say no. The exhibition was very well designed for life on the road. Just a couple of days ago, the exhibition was at the National Motor Museum in Birdwood. We bumped it out over the course of just a few hours really, pack it neatly into a truck. Probably the bit where we have to be most careful is when we're handling the objects. The claymation figures, quite interestingly, we pack into a esky. It is a specialised kit though, because they're obviously made of plasticine, so they suffer the heat a little bit more. The other tricky thing to load and transport is the Ford Fairlane. We load that into a specially enclosed car trailer, strap it in, transport it down the hill. We've done it a bunch of times now, we're very confident getting everything in and out.
How do people respond to the exhibition? With big smiles. Yes, they're with big smiles.
There's a lot of interactivity. We've got augmented reality that brings to life the designs on the Ford Fairlane. We've got a bush driver simulator that's a pretty wacky video game that was created specifically for the exhibition.
The interaction with the game that you have to drive, you have to fix things. We purposely made people work a little bit to interact with the exhibition because the exhibition is about people who work hard.
So we want people to have fun, but while you're having fun, you will be confronted with what it was like in 2001 to live in Yuendumu, so in a remote community in the Tanami Desert.
It's amazing how many people come through and go, oh, I remember this series, I really love this series. And there were only 4 episodes, but it has stuck with them. So there's this real nostalgic connection, I think, to this exhibition.
I think people really enjoy the ingenuity behind some of the fixes that the original Bush Mechanics put in place. There's a great affinity for these stories to be told and retold through this exhibition. I think it's just a great way to further communicate some of the great stories from the original Bush Mechanics television series.
The reason we turned Bush Mechanics, the TV show, into an exhibition is that 15 years on, it was becoming a little bit less known, but the concepts are still really relevant. We're the National Motor Museum, we tell motoring stories, but it's a great way to get a First Nations story out and around. We were really passionate about taking it around Australia. Bush Mechanics is an exhibition that's been on the road for 5 years. And though we opened it at the National Motor Museum in Birdwood, the very first thing we did was then to take everything, all these cultural materials that had been locked inside museums and people's homes ever since the TV show aired 15 years prior, and we returned it to Yuendumu. We had a 4 or 5 day exhibition stint there where all the community turned out. A lot of people got emotional seeing these things again. Young kids who had never seen the TV show originally were introduced to it for the first time. And then we just kept going because people kept wanting to see it. So we think over 1 million people have now seen the exhibition, which is amazing, and we hope to keep touring it around.
People who come and have a look at this exhibition tell us stories about their bush mechanic experience where they've fixed something that's gone wrong and they haven't got a mechanic nearby or a mechanic's workshop, and so they've had to do some quick fix. So it's multi-layered for me. The exhibition is about a TV phenomena. It's about being a mechanic in the bush. It's about the bush mechanics and our First Nations interactions with vehicles. It's also an opportunity to provide a window for people who haven't experienced many First Nations stories, a reasonably accessible entry point into exploring a bit of Australian culture and First Nations culture.